When I move to 147, I will move up and I will knock Kell Brook out. Now, I've said it in front of everybody.
Where does that hatred come from?
Just for the respect factor, you know, never acknowledging me.
I think he's going to be bitter about how I treated him in sparring. Maybe that's why he's still bitter about that.
I want the fight. I want to shut him up and I'll move on.
But listen, if I fought you, I will knock you out.
It's in the melting pot.
Amir Khan, the Olympic sensation that turned national hero at the tender age of 17. Silver medal in hand, to then later capture gold as a unified world champion. And Kell Brook, the talented welterweight from the Steel City of Sheffield, patiently waiting to settle a career-long vendetta against a provocative enemy.
But the fact is, you know, I want to hurt him.
Well, it's my time now to put him in his place and hopefully move on to bigger and better things.
I'm going to look up in your knock spot and say, I told you.
Two rivals with a contrasting rise to the top of their sport, but bound together by a common cause. Genuine hatred.
School Kell in the ring.
I've never been schooled ever.
Yeah, come on, Kell.
The tension, animosity and disdain for one another will finally boil over on February 19th in front of a packed AO Arena in Manchester. And despite all the accolades both have achieved, there remains no illusion that this fight is the one they'll be most remembered for. The origins of Khan and Brook's rivalry span back more than 15 years, when both were budding young amateurs looking to make an impression on Team GB selectors.
Why did I got picked for the Olympic team? Because I was schooling Kell Brook with one hand. I used to be going to the training camp and the coach used to tell me, Amir, just use one hand against him now.
He's so deluded. That guy is so deluded.
1, 2, left hook, right hand, uppercut. Oh, you've had it.
After winning the European Olympic qualifying tournament, Amir Khan was selected as Britain's sole boxing representative for the Athens Olympics in 2004, a decision that would see one remain in the dimmed lights of small hall shows and the other launched onto the biggest sporting stage of the world. Overnight, the 17-year-old boy from Bolton became a national hero. His sparkling performances saw him blaze through to the final of the competition, to only be outpointed by the great Mario Kindelan. Despite not getting the gold medal he dreamed of, Khan's performances exceeded all expectations. It was the beginnings of a stellar rise, a shining beacon of his generation that would help fund the next 2 cycles of amateur boxing in Britain to create future contingents of gold medal winners and world champions.
He did all he could do in the amateur game. He beat the best in the world, so I don't think there was much left for him really, but to turn professional, and hopefully he's going to do the same in the professional ranks.
And for his efforts at the Olympics, Khan was rewarded with the ideal launchpad for a lucrative career in the pro ranks. Packed arenas and millions of viewers on mainstream terrestrial TV developed Khan into one of the premier names of British boxing, as well as a highly touted prospect destined to become a world champion.
We hope to make some form of a title fight, you know, when he's 20, sometime next year. There's a way to go yet. He's learning his trade.
And 2 years in, with his 13th professional fight, he would pick up his first professional title when he challenged the Commonwealth champion, Willie Limond.
And new lightweight champion of the Commonwealth.
The acquisition of his first professional belt, however, also coincided with the first warning signs of an Achilles heel that would later almost define his career.
he's caught by left hand, and the right is an upkick that did the damage, and Khan goes down.
Though he would answer the knockdown emphatically in the subsequent rounds to force his opponent to retire, a lingering question over his ability to absorb a shot began forming amongst his critics.
Well, he proved that he can come back, but he was badly shaken, and it would be silly to ignore the fact that Willie Limond is not a terrific puncher, and it does make you a little concerned about the future.
The same question 12 months later, and in the fourth defence of his Commonwealth title, would again be asked by the gutsy Michael Gomez.
And that's what'll catch Gomez. Now Gomez gets him with the left hand.
Once more, Khan was forced to dig deep to escape the jaws of defeat.
Beats Michael Gomez. Oh, good uppercut from Khan. Terrific left hand. Once more, the referee taking a very close look at the challenger, and he's waved it off. It's all over.
Khan's heroics and raw fighting instincts maintained his lofty ambitions of becoming a world champion at the age of 21. But in the immediate fight after, reality kicked in with a fierce reminder that nothing should be taken for granted in boxing. Brady's Prescott, an undefeated Colombian knockout artist with 17 stoppages in 19 wins. And in a careless move by Khan's matchmakers, was welcomed to a packed MEN arena to serve up one of the most dramatic upsets on British soil.
And he's got another huge left, and down goes Amir Khan. Oh, he's all over the place. Oh, he's going to have to be stopped, surely. He can hardly stand. What drama here in the opening round. He's going to have to be stopped. He's flattened in the corner. Oh, these are desperate moments for Amir Khan.
A loss at this stage of Khan's career seemed inconceivable, and the physical and mental damage caused from those destructive 54 seconds led many in the boxing world to believe his career was at its end. But Khan and his team recognized the complete overhaul required to regain their confidence and reinstate their prospects of reaching world level.
Can he come back from a defeat like that?
Yeah, I mean, he's not the first fighter to get beat. You know, there's lots of fighters who've been beaten in their careers and come back and won world titles. You know, as long as they can learn from it, and that's what he's got to do.
The first step in their recovery was to move to America, to team up with the most in-demand coach in the game. Freddie Roach's roster of fighters included both past and present legends, and his high expectations of Khan forced him on a journey of immense improvements, both physically and tactically.
Yeah. So for this fight, single jabs are better than double. Yes, 100%, yes.
And alongside Roach's high standards, also existed the box office status which would inevitably require Khan to face more formidable opponents. As such, he was afforded just one confidence-building fight before being all of a sudden matched with an all-time Mexican great. In Marco Antonio Barrera, Khan found an opponent that was tough, experienced, and skilled enough to test his mental fortitude, but also too old and undersized to test his durability. It was shrewd matchmaking on the part of Frank Warren, whereby an elite, well-established name could be used to restore public faith in Khan's chances of winning a world title.
Huge pressure on your shoulders. You couldn't get this wrong, though.
I couldn't, it was make or break for me. Freddie says make or break. If you lose this fight, then, pack your bags, forget about a world title fight.
Returning to normality since the Prescott defeat was a challenge in itself. And being able to compete for a world title less than a year on from the disastrous night in Manchester was unimaginable. Yet, with an incredible work ethic and self-belief, Khan manoeuvred himself into a shot at the WBA light welterweight title, held by the respectable Andrei Kotelnik.
Is he ready? Will the chin, the defence, the stamina hold up against a natural light welterweight with a wealth of knowledge, the canny, savvy Andreas Kotelnik?
Returning to the arena in which his world title dreams were initially destroyed, Khan's transformation into a long-range, fleet-footed boxer was on full display.
A tactic spot on at the moment from Amir Khan with his speed, his movement and his boxing brain.
A disciplined performance right through to the final bell allowed Khan to sweep all 12 rounds to earn a unanimous decision to become the new WBA World Champion. An announcement which 10 months prior seemed a distant fantasy.
The new WBA light welterweight champion of the world.
10 months on from that Brainers Prescott nightmare. What an amazing rehabilitation.
You know, whoever thought within 3 fights after that defeat, in the third fight I'd be a world champion, and look, I've proved everyone wrong. But you know, this fight has given me so much confidence, and it's because of this man here, you know, sat next to me, Freddie. It's got a Freddie on this fight, he's a man.
He showed us everything, the questions that had to be answered about the chin, about the grit, about the physical strength. What a performance, start to finish, tremendous.
In sharp contrast to Amir Khan's meteoric rise, Kell Brook was forced to accept a more low-key, methodical route to the top of the sport. And in the same months his counterpart was setting the world alight at the Olympics, Brook was making preparations for his first professional bout. The media spotlight and attention may have been missing, but if Brook was to benefit in an area in which Khan didn't, it was the legendary boxing gym he was raised in. Situated in the Winkerbank area of Sheffield, the Ingle Gym was the enchanting home of some of the most memorable names in British boxing. Spellbinding talent, meticulously created by the wizardry of the late Brendan Ingle, led to champions at all levels of the sport. None more notable than perhaps the most gifted fighter to have ever come out of Britain, Prince Naseem Hamed. Unlike the conventional, upright method of fighting associated with most British fighters, Brendan Ingle instilled a style whereby rhythmical footwork and defence based on reflexes left the hands free for offensive activity. This birthed a wave of never-before-seen talent through the 80s, 90s and 2000s.
He's the next one's going to come true. It's just time and patience.
And in Kell Brook existed perhaps the last remnants of the golden age of the Ingle fighters.
Kell Brook's probably the last, what I call the old school. That was the Naseem Hamed period, the Johnny Nelson. There's no other kids from that time left in the gym. Kell's the last one.
The first 6 years of Brook's professional career involved a steady build-up of domestic victories to hone his abilities. Then, on his 20th milestone, finally came the first time in a professional setting his name was associated with Amir Khan. Fighting on the very same card in which his rival would challenge for the world title, Brook wished his future foe good luck.
I hope Khan wins tonight. It's a brilliant duel. I'm just glad to be part of it and continue winning titles. Indeed,
Khan would capture his world title and spur Brook's ambition to achieve the same dream.
You're ready for anybody?
Yeah, that's me. I'll get in. I've dreamt about being in with them top names.
And one of his first steps in doing so was facing a former world title challenger, Matthew Hatton.
And a chance to see, Barry, just how good Kell Brook is.
Here is the acid test for Kell Brook tonight.
Billed as the War of the Roses, the clash with Hatton represented the most high-profile fight of Brook's career. A North England domestic rivalry saw fans pack out the Motorpoint Arena in Sheffield for the hometown hopeful to put on a polished, textbook performance.
And you've got to admire Kell Brook for fulfilling this feeling that we've had about him. He could be that good. We could be looking at a future world champion here.
But despite the world-level abilities on display, Brook was now reaching his 28th fight and almost 8 years as a professional. And under the circumstances, critics began yearning for a real acid test that could scrutinise Brook's toughness.
Whoever wins this fight gets a world title shot, so he's seeing me as a stepping stone just as I'm seeing him as a stepping stone.
You have to be like that. If you're not, I mean, why be in it?
In July of 2012, a rough and rugged welterweight by the name of Carson Jones was the man assigned with the task of giving Brook the toughest fight of his career so far.
Way there. A good shot, caught round the back of the head, but he's complaining about it.
Shown out there, Jones. Right hand. Here comes Kell Brook.
The first half of the bout, however, showed a familiar pattern of Brook's trademark poise and skill dominating proceedings. And for a while, it seemed like it would be another run-of-the-mill stoppage victory for the Sheffield native.
Starlow as well, right hand. Straight down the pipe. Oh, Jones under pressure again. Here we go, Kell Brook ramming the combinations in the 6th round.
But by the time the fight moved into the second half, it became clear that the American wasn't going anywhere.
Carson Jones.
Right hand for Jones. Big shots. Oh, Brook in trouble. Is there a cut to the eye? The nose is bad.
Brook, for the first time in his professional career, had to dig deep to maintain his undefeated record.
Is that nosebleed?
Yep, blood from the nose of Kell Brook. And that's bad. It's flowing quite profusely there from the nose of Brook. That's going to affect his breathing.
But this is Jones' kind of fight. This is what we don't need.
Right hand from Jones. Brook taking a few more now. 30 seconds left. Kell Brook, oh, it's caught by right hand. Jones hurt it there.
A fight truly of two halves. And the final bell could not have come sooner for Brook, as he would narrowly survive Jones's last-ditch onslaught.
The bell's going to come any second. We wanted a gut check. Kell Brook may have wanted a gut check. We just got it. What a fight.
What Kell Brook showed tonight is he's got a lot of heart, and that means a lot in boxing, especially when you've got his kind of talent. So we've got to go away, regroup. We know we're not the finished article. I said that before, but we've got to learn to prepare like a champion. You know, and it's great everyone patting us on the back, and we appreciate all the support of Sheffield, but we've got to do things right.
It was the closest that Brook had ever come to defeat. But in his bloodiest war came the necessary examination to force him to elevate his game to the new levels he would soon compete at. It's December 2009. The turn of the decade is fast approaching, and the Wildcard Boxing Gym is currently the hottest fighting stable in the world. With their base of operations in the Californian heat of Hollywood, Freddie Roach's assembly of fighters are setting the world alight with spectacular performances, spearheaded by none other than the great Manny Pacquiao. And evidently, the gym's success began rubbing off on Roach's latest charge. The first offence of his WBA light welterweight title saw his mandatory challenger Dimitri Salita blitzed away in just one round.
Is America next? You seem the man to have transformed Amir Khan. Can he take the States by storm too?
He can take the world. I mean, the world is Amir's right now, this weight division. Whoever wants to step up and fight, we're ready.
To further set his roots in Los Angeles, Khan signed a multi-fight deal with US promoter Golden Boy Promotions, a move that confirmed his newfound appetite for learning and competing with the best in the world. His American debut came against former world champion Paulie Malignaggi, a well-established name in America with a wealth of experience against elite light welterweights.
He's a little too excited. The nerves are getting to him. He realizes the first fight in America is the best opponent he's faced.
It was a fight that demonstrated Khan's increasing evolution under Freddie Roach, as American viewers for the first time would witness a well-oiled boxing machine with sublime speed, a head-snapping jab, and raw boxing ability.
I think this one's going to get stopped. It's all over, I think. It's all over right here. It's been stopped.
By the end of 2010, Khan had amassed a 5-fight winning streak without barely losing a round. But despite his recent accolades and impressive statistics, it had also been 5 fights since he'd last faced a puncher. And there remained an ineradicable point of contention that unless he faced another KO artist, the ghost of the Prescott defeat would forever haunt him. And thus arrived a mandatory challenger at the perfect time. the monstrous Marcus Maidana. Better and more dangerous than Bradis Prescott in every way imaginable. A perfect embodiment of violence, fighting spirit, and brute punching power. In Marcos El Chino Maidana, the critics need not look any further in wanting to see how Khan's punch resistance could hold at world level. And in December of 2010, Khan entered the ring for what would eventually be chalked as the most career-defining night of his career. The expectations were for Khan to take a cautious, safe approach. But much to the surprise of everyone in attendance, the champion took the fight to the Argentinian and punctuated the opening round with a stunning body shot. The ensuing rounds showcased what many consider to be Amir Khan at the absolute peak of his powers. An offensive variety combined with speed and punching power kept the dangerous challenger at bay for the first quarter of the fight.
Nobody has treated Maidana the way Khan did.
Anything can happen.
But he's getting hammered to the body, and Khan is putting on a show.
But it wouldn't be long before Maidana was on the mend and edging back into the fight. The ferocious pace Khan employed from the opening bell began to wane, and a minute into the 10th round, the menacing challenger mobilized a hellacious attack to hurt Khan for the first time in 3 years.
Hard right hand. Khan is tremendously wobbled. Amir should be holding on right now.
The trial that Khan's skeptics had long been waiting for was in full swing.
Maidana's got his chance. And the left hook lands for Maidana. Khan is wobbling. Khan is almost going. Will he hold?
In the depths of despair, Amir Khan had miraculously survived the onslaught of the biggest puncher in the division.
Secured safety for Khan. And this may win him the round. And if he wins the round, he may be safe.
Gentlemen, that was a fight.
Critics turned into fans, and through the trenches of war, the boy from Bolton elevated his superstardom to new levels. And in the following summer, became the unified WBA and IBF world champion with another startling performance against Zab Judah.
Unified WBA and IBF champion of the world.
Amir Khan, by now, had become arguably the #1 fighter in the most competitive division in all of boxing.
Congratulations on another spectacular performance, Amir Khan.
Thank you very much.
But with his increased profile in America, also came the familiar pattern of chasing the bigger prize, which for the second time in his career would be to his detriment.
One thing is clear, you want to fight Mayweather in your future.
There's no one as fast as me in the world of boxing, so I really believe that I will cause him a lot of problems.
An oversight in the selection of Lamont Peterson as a voluntary defense saw Khan unexpectedly lose his world titles by split decision in a highly controversial bout.
But if this fight was taking place in Great Britain, and the ref was calling something like that on an American fighter, what would we all think?
But this is home cooking of a different kind.
Allegations of corrupt officiating and hometown bias was further exasperated by a failed drug test from Peterson in the lead up to the rematch. Khan's WBA world title would eventually be restored, but when rearrangements were made to replace Peterson with the WBC champion, Danny Garcia, Khan's misfortunes worsened. With 2 back-to-back upset losses, Khan's 3-year reign as a world champion came to an abrupt end. Irreversible damage from which he would never fully recover from. A harsh price to pay for taking risks and competing with the best in the world.
The theme of Amir Khan's career, it seems, and we talked about this, is no good deed goes unpunished. He behaves precisely as we'd like our prize fighters to behave. He'll fight anyone wanting to do the right thing constantly. He was gunning for the knockout, and sure enough, he gets punished for it. No good deed for Amir Khan goes unpunished, and yet I'm really happy we have him in the sport.
From the defeat, Khan began a rocky journey of rehabilitation, whereby a change in trainer and managerial team saw jaded attempts to claw back the blistering form he once enjoyed. The mirage of a Floyd-Mayweather showdown also persisted, contributing greatly to fight inactivity, including the passing of a world title opportunity against Devon Alexander. Ironically, the events surrounding Khan's demise coincided with his British rival's emergence on the world scene.
If I was Amir Khan, I would box Kell Brook now before this kid is a fully fledged, fully confident individual.
7 days before the shock loss to Garcia, Kell Brook came through the first gut check of his career to serve as Britain's new hope for a premier welterweight name.
Anyway, more big right hands coming in.
And the referee's on the verge of stopping this.
He is, and he has.
An emphatic TKO victory in the rematch with Carson Jones in the subsequent year demonstrated Brook's improvements.
The fight that people want to see is Amir Khan. Kell Brook would take that fight tomorrow.
I'd love to take Khan's chin clean off. You know, I think everyone knows that I want to destroy Khan.
And to add further to Khan's woes, his replacement as challenger to Devon Alexander's world title ended up being Sean Porter, the eventual victor, who in August of 2014 was set to defend his newly acquired IBF world title against none other than Kell Brook.
I'm ready for this moment. I'm ready to take the IBF title of Sean Porter here.
It's showtime, and he's in my country, my town, and I want him to know he's in front of my fans. They're behind me, and on Saturday night it's showtime.
Undefeated in 25 fights, the IBF champion was renowned for his awkward, aggressive style, as well as his extreme levels of fitness and durability. And so the long overdue demonstration of Brook's place amongst the best in the world would be comprehensively put to the test by a man intent on keeping his world title.
Porter coming forward as expected, as Brook in the corner.
Porter brought forth a spirited, high-octane strategy in an attempt to break down Brook. But the antidote to Porter's mauling style involved a clever blend of clinching to restrict Porter's work at close quarters, as well as perfectly timed counters to incoming attacks.
And Brook, nice shots there by the challenger as we go.
Though the fight remained competitive throughout the entire 12 rounds, Brook's grace and elegance and coolness under pressure proved the ultimate difference.
The counter shot because he can't just block those. Nice counter right uppercut by Brook, who now goes on the attack.
In what will go down as the most defining fight of Brook's career, a majority points decision saw the crowning of a new welterweight champion of the world.
And the new. It's Kell Brook. It's Kell Brook's night.
10 years and 33 fights as a professional, the Sheffield star would finally silence the critics who felt he was lacking a world-class opponent on his resume. And with his newly acquired world title came the feeling that, at long last, he would be worthy of an Amir Khan showdown. The bitter rivalry intensified.
Clearly no love lost between you two.
You sparred before, haven't you?
Yeah, we've sparred before. What happened?
You know what happened, come on Kell.
What happened?
Kell, I used to box Kell all around the ring, and I'm not gonna lie to you, that's the honest truth. I was training for the Olympic Games at that time, and Kell was at the juniors, and I used to school Kell in the ring.
I've never been schooled ever.
Oh, come on Kell.
The timing for a British blockbuster fight seemed perfect, as the animosity between the two combatants clearly shone in every interview.
You know, it's the battle of Britain, it's me against Khan. But all I've got to do is land on his chin and it's game over.
You know, I still think I'm a league above, but you know, if I have to step back a league and have to go down and knock him out, then I might have to do that.
With a potential mega fight around the corner, Brook's management turned back to the careful matchmaking that drew much of their criticism in the first place.
No point in this continuing. It wasn't competitive.
But really, this is a night that nobody really needs to talk about too much.
It was a sheltered approach, which an irritated Amir Khan was not impervious to.
Now, this is where I think he's fooling the public who he's fighting. Really, if he wanted to fight me, he could have proven it in a better way by beating some decent opponents and saying, look, I'm ready for you. If I'm beating this guy, that guy, then fight me.
In the meantime, Khan embarked on a quest to decrypt and reinvent his style of fighting.
What you're doing, you create decoys with the other punches.
He sought the coaching guidance of the highly venerated Virgil Hunter, and after a shaky opening to the partnership, the pair soon caught a spark with 2 back-to-back impressive performances over former world champions Luis Calazzo and Devon Alexander.
Amir Khan!
But with his return of form, also came the return of his ambitions for legacy fights with boxing's premier names.
You know, and I really believe I'm in that same line as the Mayweather Pacquiao's out there. They're the fights I really want because, you know, I think Mayweather's got 1 or 2 fights left in him. Pacquiao seems to, you know, have a few fights left in him. I want them super mega fights and give Burton the biggest fights they want. In the future, Kell Brook fight could happen as well. I'm not saying no to it, but at the moment, I have a different path. I want to go for that Mayweather fight.
But is that a fight that could still be on the table at some stage?
It could still be there. You know, he doesn't need to contact me. I'm fed up with really like saying anything about his name. You know, if he knows exactly where I am if he wants to fight.
The verbal sparring in the media became visibly exhausting as their respective dream fights faded into dust. And in 2016, their frustrations simultaneously boiled over into 2 catastrophic decisions that sealed their fate at the top of the sport.
Huge boxing story tonight. It's that Amir Khan will jump 2 weight divisions to take on Saul Canelo Alvarez.
The Kell Brook Gennady Golovkin fight wasn't really a fight that we were looking at all. It was a fight that was mentioned to me by Kell Brook when Amir Khan actually stepped up and fought Canelo.
Desperate to land a mega pay-per-view fight and chase pound-for-pound greatness, Khan accepted the monstrous task of facing Saul Canelo Alvarez. And mere months later, Kell Brook followed in the same footsteps to face the deadly Gennady Golovkin. Both would require the welterweights to leapfrog 2 divisions to challenge for middleweight titles, and both would end disastrously.
Taking away his energy and every
Khan endured a frightening knockout in the 6th, and Brook suffered a broken eye socket as he was stopped in the 5th.
Engel is trying to get referee Marlon Wright to stop the fight, and now he finally throws the towel.
The rise to their peak of their careers may have occurred at different intervals, but their decline was almost identical. Khan languished in inactivity, whilst Brook's return to welterweight saw him lose his IBF title to rising star Errol Spence. A fight in which he would undergo further deterioration as the American delivered him another broken eye socket on the other side.
Spence Jr. has done it! The truth hurts! Saturday night in Sheffield as Errol Spence Jr. becomes IBF welterweight champion, and he does it in impressive fashion now.
Now, obviously, look, Kell's had the loss now. I'm sure he's going to go into another fight, which is going to be a nice tune-up fight, and maybe next summer we could be back.
With their relevance at world championship level seemingly diminished, there remained a semblance of hope that the 2 could finally turn their attentions towards each other.
Listen, of course, Amir Khan, Kell Brook is the fight we've wanted for 3 or 4 years. Amir Khan has got to pass the test, April 21st, live on Sky Sports. Kell will be ringside for that as well.
In April of 2018, 2 years on from the devastating defeat to Canelo, Khan made a lively return against the boisterous Phil LaGreco.
I hope your fist do the talking. I hope your fist do the same talking.
The entertaining build-up was matched equally by a trademark rapid-fire opening round. 40 seconds into the fight, it was all over, and the energised Khan turned his attention towards his bitter rival in the post-fight interview immediately after.
Kell, I came to Eddie and I signed a deal with your promotional company, Eddie Hearn's matching company. I've got closer to you, so I'm chasing you. Remember that?
And that fight will always be a big fight, and I'd hate to one day these boys get old and look back and kick themselves for not making that fight. I believe the British public want to see Khan against Brook, and we should deliver what the British public want.
Though it was largely accepted the two were far beyond their primes, there still remained overwhelming interest among media and fans alike. With potential dates in mind and finally a mutual promoter to have all parties on board, the fight was closer to reality more than ever before. But if the Khan vs Brook saga was to ever teach a lesson, it was that boxing's ability to disappoint its audience should never be underestimated.
I just feel that the Kell Brook fight's always going to be there. So if there's other big names out there where I can fight for world titles, then I'd take that option.
Once again, the allure of world title fights and lucrative paydays elsewhere scuppered the fight.
It was supposed to be me and him now, the big one, and he's running up again.
Crawford is dangerous. A lot of people don't want to fight him. So this is a big test for me. And I know that winning this fight will make me a world champion and one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. It's been my dream to be one of them.
First, it would be Khan to try his luck against pound-for-pound sensation Terence Crawford, only for his faded abilities to be easily dismissed via a 6th-round TKO loss. And 12 months later, Brook followed suit by lasting just 4 rounds against a well-timed jab.
Beautiful right hand! And the champ gets to him! Vicious attack to close it! And he stares him down!
A decade and above has passed since the last time we saw Amir Khan dazzling UK and US fans against the world's best. A champion's heart combined with extraordinary talent that made him a household name and must-see TV attraction. And Kell Brook, the last in a line of legendary fighters from the Winkerbank Gym, charmed boxing purists with a blended style of finesse and ferocity. His pinnacle, also a distant memory of 8 years in the past. The public may bemoan them as perished enemies with decaying powers inside the ring, and perhaps justifiably so. But whatever the frustrations, their February 19th showdown stands as an acknowledgement of the sacrifices made in both careers. One last dance before the curtains close on two forces that have contributed greatly to an unforgiving profession.